happens when the world's mightiest empire faces a collection of fiercely independent city-states fighting for freedom. The Greco-Persian Wars were a dramatic saga of courage, strategy, and sacrifice that changed the course of Western civilization. From the dusty plains of Marathon to the narrow pass of Thermopylae, these battles have echoed through history. Welcome to the War Vault. Let's uncover the epic story of the Greco-Persian Wars. To understand the monumental Greco-Persian Wars, we need to rewind over 2,500 years and step into a world of ancient empires. Fierce independence and escalating tensions that ignited one of history's most famous conflicts. At the heart of this story lies an empire so vast and powerful that it stretched from the Indus Valley in the east to the Aegean Sea in the west. The Persian Empire, founded by Cyrus the Great. This empire was known for its efficient administration, tolerance of different cultures, and vast military might. But even an empire this mighty couldn't escape the fierce spirit of freedom that burned in the Greek city-states. The rise of the Persian Empire, the giant awakens. By the late 6th century BC, the Persian Empire was the largest in the world. After Cyrus the Great established Persian dominance by overthrowing the Median Empire, his successors expanded aggressively. Darius I, known as Darius the Great, ruled from 522 to 486 BC and was a master administrator and builder. Under his rule, Persia's territories expanded to include Asia Minor, were located. These Ionian cities, though Greek in culture and language, found themselves under Persian control. This uneasy subjugation was the first flashpoint that would spark the wars to come. The Greek city-states, fierce independence in a fractured land. Unlike the vast Persian Empire, the Greek world was divided into hundreds of independent city-states, or polis, each with its own government, laws, and armies. Athens and Sparta were two of the most powerful, but many others played their part. Athens was a thriving democracy, a bustling naval power with a strong merchant fleet. Sparta, by contrast, was a rigid military oligarchy famed for its warrior culture and land-based army. These city-states were fiercely proud of their independence. They often fought each other, but when a common threat arose, they could unite as they would against Persia. The Ionian Revolt, the spark that ignited a century of war. In 499 BC, the simmering tensions between the Greek city-states under Persian control and their Persian overlords exploded into open rebellion. The Ionian Revolt was led by Aristagoras, the tyrant of Miletus, one of the most important Ionian cities. The revolt was motivated by heavy taxation, Persian interference, and local dissatisfaction. Aristagoras sought aid from mainland Greece, turning to Athens and Eretria for help. Athens and Eretria sent ships and soldiers to support the Ionian uprising, a risky move that put them directly in conflict with Persia. Though the revolt lasted only a few years and was eventually crushed by Persian forces, it was the first open act of defiance against the Persian Empire and set the stage for the larger conflict. Darius of Phi's fury and the first Persian invasion of Greece. Darius I was furious at the aid given by Athens and Eretria to the Ionian rebels. To punish them and to secure his empire's western frontier, he launched an expedition to invade mainland Greece. In 490 BC, a massive Persian force sailed across the Aegean Sea and landed on the plains near the city of Marathon, about 26 miles from Athens. The Battle of Marathon, David versus Goliath. On the plains. The Battle of Marathon is one of the most legendary encounters in military history. The Athenians, outnumbered and facing a vast Persian army, made a bold decision to engage the enemy on the open plains of Marathon. The Persian army was a diverse force, including cavalry, archers, and infantry, accustomed to overwhelming opponents with numbers and speed. The Athenians, primarily hoplites, heavily armed infantry, relied on discipline, heavy armor, and the famous phalanx formation. Despite being heavily outnumbered, the Athenians executed a brilliant tactical plan. They strengthened their flanks and weakened the center of their formation, luring the Persians in. When the Persian center advanced, the stronger Athenian wings encircled and crushed the enemy. The battle ended with a stunning Greek victory. The Persians were forced to retreat to their ships, their ambitions temporarily crushed. Marathon was a turning point. Marathon was more than a battle. It was a symbol of defiance and hope. The victory proved that the mighty Persian Empire could be defeated by determined, united Greeks. It inspired pride and confidence throughout Greece, especially Athens, which would soon become the leader of the Greek resistance against Persia. Marathon also showed the importance of terrain, tactics, and morale. The Athenians fought not just for land, but for their freedom, and that gave them an edge. The Persian response, and the stage for a larger conflict. Though defeated at Marathon, Darius's resolve to subjugate Greece remained unshaken. His successor, Xerxes I, inherited this mission and planned a massive second invasion. Xerxes prepared one of the largest armies ever assembled in the ancient world, determined to crush the Greek city-states once and for all. Before launching the invasion, Xerxes built bridges across the Hellespont, modern-day Dardanelles, to move his army into Europe and dug a canal through the Athos Peninsula to allow safer naval passage. This show of logistical might was unprecedented and showed Persia's overwhelming power. The Greek preparation, a fragile alliance. As the threat grew, the Greek city-states began to understand the existential danger Persia posed. Athens and Sparta, despite their differences, agreed to cooperate against the common enemy. Sparta led the land forces, known for their discipline and elite warriors. Athens contributed its powerful navy, which would be critical in controlling the seas. Other city-states joined the alliance, creating a fragile but crucial coalition that would stand against Persia. The coming storm, the war that would shape the future. The stage was set for a monumental struggle, one that would test the mettle of both empires and define the trajectory of Western civilization. From the Ionian Revolt's sparks to the thunder of chariots at Marathon, this first part of the Greco-Persian Wars reveals the complex causes, early battles, and fierce determination that set history in motion. In the next part, we will explore the epic battles of Thermopylae, Salamis, and Plataea, where heroism, strategy, and sacrifice reached legendary heights. The rise and vastness of the Persian Empire under Cyrus and Darius I. The fiercely independent Greek city-states, with Athens and Sparta as key players. The Ionian Revolt as the spark igniting the wars. Darius's retaliation, and the first Persian invasion of Greece. The legendary Battle of Marathon and its tactical brilliance. The preparation for the second Persian invasion under Xerxes. The fragile Greek alliance uniting against an overwhelming foe. The second Persian invasion of Greece, launched by King Xerxes I in 480 BC, was a momentous and terrifying event. Unlike his predecessor Darius, whose ambitions were dashed at Marathon, Xerxes was determined to crush the Greek city-states once and for all. He amassed a colossal army and a massive fleet, one of the largest military forces ever assembled in the ancient world. Ancient sources paint a picture of an unstoppable tidal wave of soldiers and warships descending on Greece, yet the Greeks managed to rally a fierce resistance. This phase of the Greco-Persian Wars is remembered for legendary stands, brilliant naval battles, and decisive confrontations that shaped the future of Western civilization. The Gathering Storm. Xerxes' massive army and navy. Historical accounts estimate Xerxes' invasion force as numbering between 100,000 to 300,000 soldiers. Though some ancient writers claimed figures in the millions, modern scholars agree these were exaggerations. Still, the scale was immense. Infantry, cavalry, archers, chariots, and engineers, accompanied by a vast supply train that stretched for miles. To transport this enormous force, Xerxes commissioned an unprecedented fleet of over 1,000 ships. The fleet was tasked not only with securing the sea lanes, but also supplying and supporting the army as it advanced into Greece. Xerxes' preparations went beyond military might. His engineers built a bridge of boats across the Hellespont, the narrow strait between Asia and Europe, and dug a canal through the Athos Peninsula to bypass dangerous waters, feats that showcased Persian logistical brilliance. The Greek response: unity amid division. The Greek city-states faced an existential threat. Despite centuries of rivalry, Athens, Sparta, Corinth, and others realized survival depended on cooperation. A coalition was formed. Although the unity was fragile, each city-state was fiercely protective of its independence and wary of Athenian or Spartan dominance. Sparta took charge of the land forces, renowned for its disciplined and formidable hoplite infantry. Athens, meanwhile, invested in its navy, led by the astute Themistocles, who saw naval power as the key to defeating Persia. Other city-states contributed troops and ships, forming a combined army and fleet ready to face the Persian juggernaut. The Battle of Thermopylae, defiance at the hot gates. Thermopylae, a narrow mountain pass on the eastern coast of central Greece, became the scene of one of history's most famous last stands. King Leonidas I of Sparta led a force of about 7,000 Greeks to block Xerxes' army at this strategic choke point. Among them were his elite 300 Spartans, warriors rigorously trained from youth to be fearless and disciplined soldiers. For 3 days, the Greeks repelled repeated Persian assaults. The narrowness of the pass neutralized the Persian numerical advantage, forcing Xerxes to commit his troops piecemeal into a deadly bottleneck. Greek hoplites, heavily armored and armed with long spears, stood shoulder to shoulder in the phalanx formation, a wall of bronze and discipline. Despite overwhelming odds, the defenders inflicted heavy casualties. Ancient accounts describe the Spartans' unyielding bravery and tactical skill as they held the line. Betrayal and the final stand. The tide turned when a local Greek named Ephialtes betrayed the defenders by revealing a hidden mountain path to the Persians, allowing them to outflank the Greek position. Leonidas dismissed most of the Greek forces to save them from encirclement, but stayed behind with his 300 Spartans, 700 Thespians, and a few hundred others to make a heroic last stand. The Spartans fought fiercely to their deaths, buying time for the rest of Greece to prepare for the impending Persian advance. Their sacrifice became a symbol of courage, duty, and defiance against overwhelming force, an enduring legacy celebrated through history and legend. The naval battles. Artemisium, and Salamis. While Thermopylae held the land forces at bay, the Greek navy engaged the Persian fleet at sea. The Battle of Artemisium, fought simultaneously, was a series of naval skirmishes off the coast of Euboea. Though the Greeks were outnumbered, they used their superior knowledge of local waters and tactical skill to prevent the Persians from securing full control of the sea. The battle was inconclusive but vital. It delayed Persian naval dominance and allowed Greek city-states time to evacuate coastal areas. Following the fall of Thermopylae, the Persian army marched south and sacked Athens, which had been evacuated. But the Greek fleet retreated to the straits near the island of Salamis, preparing for a decisive encounter. The Battle of Salamis, a masterstroke of naval strategy. Themistocles orchestrated one of the greatest naval battles in history at Salamis. He lured the vast Persian fleet, which was composed of larger but less maneuverable ships, into the narrow straits between the island and the Greek mainland. Here, the Greek triremes, smaller, faster, and more agile, had the advantage. Using superior tactics, Greek ships rammed and rammed Persian vessels, causing chaos and heavy losses. Despite their overwhelming numbers, the Persians were unable to effectively deploy their fleet in the confined waters, and the battle ended in a crushing Greek victory. Salamis was a turning point. With Persian naval power shattered, Xerxes faced severe supply problems, forcing him to retreat back to Asia, leaving his army stranded in Greece. The final land battle, Plataea. The following year, in 479 BC, the Greeks launched a counterattack. A large coalition army gathered at Plataea in central Greece. The Battle of Plataea was the final decisive land battle of the Greco-Persian Wars. Greek hoplites, organized into disciplined formations and inspired by their recent victories, engaged the Persian forces. The Greeks employed their superior heavy infantry tactics to break Persian lines. The Persian army was decisively defeated, marking the end of Persian attempts to conquer Greece. On the same day, the Greek fleet destroyed the remaining Persian naval forces at Mycale, further consolidating Greek control. Why these battles matter, themes and lessons. These epic battles demonstrate critical themes. Terrain and tactics. The Greeks' use of geography, such as narrow passes and straits, helped neutralize Persian numerical superiority. Leadership. The bravery of Leonidas, strategic genius of Themistocles, and coordinated Greek leadership proved decisive. Unity. Despite fierce rivalry, Greek city-states united for survival. A lesson in coalition building against a common enemy. Sacrifice, the Spartan last stand, became a symbol of selfless courage and inspired future generations. The end of the Persian threat and Greek ascendancy. With the Persian army repelled and their navy destroyed, Greek independence was secured. The victories at Thermopylae, Salamis, and Plataea became legendary, marking the triumph of determination, strategy, and courage over a seemingly unstoppable empire. The wars shifted the balance of power in the ancient world. Athens rose as a dominant naval power and cultural center, paving the way for the golden age of Greece, while Persia retreated from European ambitions. The Greco-Persian Wars were not just a series of battles fought over decades. They fundamentally reshaped the ancient world and left a legacy that echoes through history to this day. While the fighting at Plataea and Mycale in 479 BC marked the military end of Persia's attempts to conquer Greece, the aftermath of these wars set Greece on a path of unprecedented political, cultural, and military transformation. At the same time, the Persian Empire, though still vast, retreated from its European ambitions, marking a turning point in its history. In this final part of our series, we explore how the wars, reshaped both Greece and Persia. The emergence of Athens as a powerful city-state, and the lasting cultural and political legacies that continue to influence us, securing Greek independence and the fragile unity. With the Persian threat lifted, the Greek city-states found themselves at a crossroads. The alliances forged out of necessity during the wars were fragile, often strained by old rivalries and competing ambitions. Sparta, with its unparalleled land forces and warrior culture, had led the heroic defense on the battlefield, especially at Thermopylae and Plataea. Sparta's social structure was rigid and focused on military discipline, and it emerged from the wars proud of its accomplishments but wary of Athens' rising influence. Athens, having saved itself by retreating and striking decisively at Salamis, rose to prominence as a naval superpower. Under the leadership of Themistocles and later Pericles, Athens expanded its fleet and influence, asserting control over the Aegean and beyond. The Delian League. Athens builds an empire. In 478 BC, Athens established the Delian League, a defensive alliance of Greek city-states designed to protect against future Persian aggression. Initially, member states contributed ships or funds to a treasury based on the island of Delos. While officially a defensive coalition, the Delian League increasingly became an Athenian empire in all but name. Athens used league funds to build a massive navy and finance cultural projects such as the Parthenon. This shift caused growing tensions. Some city-states chafed under Athenian dominance, and the seeds of conflict between Athens and Sparta were sown. Persia's retreat and internal focus. Though Persia remained a powerful empire after its defeat in Greece, the loss marked a strategic retreat from Europe. The empire turned its attention to consolidating control over its vast territories in Asia, managing internal revolts and defending its eastern frontiers. The wars exposed the difficulties of maintaining control over distant lands with diverse populations, especially when local forces resisted. Cultural and political ramifications in Greece. The victories against Persia inspired pride and helped forge a collective Greek identity that emphasized freedom, democracy, and resistance to tyranny. Athens, in particular, experienced a cultural flowering known as the Classical Age. Democracy deepened, philosophy blossomed through figures like Socrates and Plato, and arts and drama flourished. The historian Herodotus, often called the father of history, chronicled the wars, blending historical inquiry with storytelling, setting a foundation for how history would be recorded for generations. Military innovations and lessons. The wars demonstrated the power of hoplite infantry and the phalanx formation, combined with strategic use of geography. They also highlighted the crucial role of naval power. Athens' triremes were a decisive factor. Leadership, intelligence gathering, and unity among disparate city-states showed how determination could overcome overwhelming numbers. The rise of Athens and the coming rivalry with Sparta. With Persian ambitions checked, internal Greek rivalries reasserted themselves. Athens' growing power and imperial ambitions alarmed Sparta and its allies. This rivalry eventually erupted into the Peloponnesian War, 431-404 BC, a devastating conflict that weakened Greece and paved the way for Macedonian dominance under Philip II and Alexander the Great. Enduring legacy of the Greco-Persian Wars. The wars left a lasting legacy that shaped Western civilization. Democratic ideals. The Greek defense became symbolic of the fight for democracy and freedom. Historical narrative. The wars chronicling established history as a discipline blending fact and narrative. Cultural identity. They helped define the cultural and political boundaries between East and West. Military doctrine. The battles taught lessons about strategy, unity, and the power of naval warfare. Figures like Leonidas and Themistocles became immortalized as heroes of resistance and leadership, a defining chapter in history. The Greco-Persian Wars were more than ancient battles. They were a clash of civilizations that tested ideals of freedom, governance, and identity. The legacy of these conflicts still influences modern ideas about democracy, leadership, and resistance to tyranny. The Greco-Persian Wars shaped the fate of nations and the course of history. From the narrow pass at Thermopylae to the decisive sea battle at Salamis, the courage, strategy, and sacrifice of the Greeks stopped the mightiest empire of the ancient world. What do you think? Was it fate, strategy, or sheer determination that won the day? Let us know your thoughts in the comments below. If you enjoyed this journey through one of history's greatest conflicts, don't forget to subscribe to the War Vault for more incredible war stories. Like this video, share it with your friends, and help us keep these powerful stories alive. Thanks for watching, and until next time, keep exploring the vaults of war history with us.